Hey, welcome back to our channel. I want to thank you for joining. If you are watching us for the first time, I appreciate your time as always. If you've left everything you were doing just to join us regards to our global perspective on how Africa continues to navigate this murky partnership that it finds itself. These are amazing times across the continent of Africa, and African countries must pay closer attention. In this episode, I want to dive into the reason why, according to the President of the United States of America, South Africa should not be a member. Remember, the country of South Africa has had a back and forth regards to the United States of America. South Africa stood its grounds, but is paying the price in a whole lot of areas, whether it's in trade, the African Growth and Opportunity Act, a relationship with the country of Russia and China, and more importantly, a very influential member in the BRICS trade blocs. These are challenging times in the country of South Africa, and like I said, the United States of America is not as strategic a partner as it once was at the moment. You never know what's going to come. The back and forth between South Africa and the country of the United States is going to be revived again. Mr. Donald Trump has once come up again. Going back to his Truth Social, he went ahead to lambast the country of South Africa, talking on the reason why the country should not be able or should not be a member. These are the complexity that the country of South Africa faces at the moment, and the country of South Africa should know that the United States of America has its own position, and there are a whole lot of areas that South Africa do not agree with the United States of America. Stemming back to the accusation during the Simon Town, and more importantly, South Africa's relationship with a whole lot of other partners, considering Israel's position with the country of South Africa, talking about the ICC. The United States under Mr. Donald Trump has singled out South Africa in a whole lot of areas. South Africa should pay closer attention to what's happening in Washington.
Welcome back. This is the Weekend Report. I'm Masachaba Mposwa. United States President Donald Trump has doubled down on his stance on South Africa hosting the G20 summit later this month, calling it a total disgrace. On his Truth Social platform, Trump said no official from his administration would attend the gathering of world leaders in Johannesburg, citing his continued false narrative of Afrikaner farm murders as the reason for the withdrawal. Speaking at a business forum in Miami earlier this week, Trump said South Africa should not even be in the G20 anymore.
According to an expert in the country of South Africa, who went ahead to explain further that the country of the United States of America might not, again, see the G20, of which South Africa should be handing over the presidency to the country of the United States of America. But if Mr. Donald Trump is sticking to his position and calling out South Africa over and over, this partnership or relationship is going to be difficult. But make no mistake, South Africa, a strategic country in the continent of Africa, is the largest United States of America's trading partner in the continent of Africa. These two countries have made billions of US dollars in terms of trade. South Africa has been a landing spot for most American companies coming to the continent of Africa. It is vital that this relationship so far is under particular review. According to the analyst, he went ahead to look into the perspective and the reason why Mr. Donald Trump coming out again and calling out South Africa. It's something that the government or the officials in South Africa should pay closer attention. Let's roll this clip.
Let's get some analysis of these latest developments now with international relations expert Dr. Kingsley Makubela. Good morning, Doctor. Thanks for your time.
Good morning, Master. Thanks very much for the invitation.
What are your immediate reactions to these developments, Doctor?
Master, I think he meant to say no one will be coming from Washington to attend this meeting. And I've always held the view that J.D. Vance won't be coming because if you look at their objection to this meeting, it's embedded in what is going to be discussed during this G20. That has to do with the solidarity, diversity, and interdependence of the world, which they are very much opposed to. What they are likely to do, and I think they would do that, is to send an official from the embassy to attend, because decisions that are taken, they are taken by consensus. So the official who would be at the meeting would keep on saying, I have instruction from Washington not to accept this paragraph. I have instruction from Washington, this paragraph must be added. So it will be very difficult to reach a consensus document that will come out of the G20.
Now, South Africa will hand over the G20 presidency to the United States next year. So how do you host a summit and then transfer power to someone who says you shouldn't even be in the room?
That's what the big problem is. But Mascha, this is bigger than the US attending the G20. It has to do with the fracture that is happening within or the emergence of the multipolar world. This is the crux of the problem. And this is actually not necessarily the Trump position. It comes back from Joe Biden. You will recall, Maschaba, last year, July, Congress started to debate how to review the South African relations. And their biggest objection were around the relationship that South Africa has with China, with Russia, and Iran. And again, added to that was the question of taking Israel to the ICC and the ICJ. Those were fundamentally the objections of the American, and they framed that as a national security threat to the United States interests. And this is carried on by the current administration. And I find it very difficult, Mascha, that within our foreign policy framework here in the country, there's no understanding that the Democrats are not necessarily the Democrats who used to be an alliance with South Africa many years ago, who used to be very supportive of South Africa many years ago.
On the relationship part, again, this back and forth is not just something that came overnight. Like we've pointed out regards to our former geopolitical analysis here, the country of the United States of America has put South Africa on the spot, going back to former president Mr. Joe Biden, when South Africa's own particular officials have come under scrutiny, and more importantly, we saw how the former ambassador under Mr. Joe Biden called out South Africa in regards to the engagement with Russia, talking about the events in Simontown, like I pointed out. We've seen United States of American senators who came out over and over, and they brought out particular resolutions to lambast the country of South Africa and question South Africa's own diversity in terms of its strategic relationship. This is the problem where African countries have questioned their global standing and their perspective, that they are, as sovereign nations, are free to diversify their partnership, whether with Russia, the European Union partners you do not agree. And this is a challenge for the country of South Africa at the moment, as the country is paying the price regards to tariff, and more importantly, the debt of the African Growth and Opportunity Act. South African farmers at the moment are looking to diversify their export in a whole lot of other markets. But the United States of America so far is not backing down regards to Mr. Donald Trump administration. Let's play this clip.
So this is fundamentally a very big global change that we're seeing, a move to the right around the world. And I keep on saying the global left has left us. So the global left is no longer there. And there's no understanding. I mean, I saw during UNGA, there was a meeting with Senator Kuhn. Now, Senator Kuhn, he's the one who's responsible. He's a senator from Delaware. But he was in charge of the Biden campaign, and he's the one who brought some of this element that South Africa must be censured for its behavior. So it's a huge problem that I don't think there's a better grasp and understanding within the country as to how to manage this emerging multipolar world with the biggest threat that it poses to the Western hegemony. And at the heart of that Western hegemony is the domination of the United States, which is seen as the biggest threat.
Now, Trump used the phrase, look at South Africa, what's going on, without elaboration. What is it that Trump seems to know about or thinks he knows about South Africa, that ordinary South African citizens, that we don't know about our own country? Or is this about what he wants the world to believe?
Maschaba, I think there was a misfire. There were two statements that he issued out during the course of this week. You would recall the first statement, he was talking at a conference in Miami where he said South Africa flooding Miami. I think he wanted to say South America. And he ended up saying South Africa, and he carried on that narrative of South Africa and brought in South America. There's no evidence of a huge migration from South Africa to Miami. To the contrary, there's evidence of Southern American people moving to Miami because of the proximity to that. Now, he came up with a statement that South Africa, the United States won't be participating at the G20, and that South Africa doesn't belong to the Gs, actually. But he has also said something fundamentally, Maschaba, that there's the emergence of the G2, meaning the United States and China, and that he will be hosting the G20 in Miami, and China will be hosting APEC, and that there must be some working relations about this too. Now, if you look at the G20, the G2, it is to emerge as a center of political gravity around the world. You're looking at 43% of the global GDP concentrated on two countries. I don't think China would accept that. I don't think China would play for the spade. But there's a big reproach mark towards China that actually we are accused of having relations with. As we are talking about today, the world is actually scintillating on a serious threat of the collapse of the automobile industry because of the Nexperia chips that China has withheld following the conflict they've had with the Netherlands. So there are a lot of global tensions that I imagine that are making the Americans very unsettled, particularly with the relationship that some of the more key smaller countries are having with China and Russia. Particularly with China is the biggest threat.
The United States of America's relationship with the country of South Africa is nothing to be written home about. We've seen efforts from the South Africa's government's own side, and more importantly, the United States of America has told South Africa to get up itself and fix its own internal situation. South Africa has pushed back over and over that the United States should not interfere in its own internal issues. However, this is not one-off. We've seen how the events have played. The country of Nigeria at the moment is coming under total scrutiny at the moment, and Nigeria should handle this particular observation from the United States from a careful strategic point of view, like we've pointed out. South Africa have a clear playbook. This accusation from Mr. Trump talking that South Africa should not be a member of the G20 at this point in history when the country of South Africa is going through tremendous challenges at the moment, and South Africa is expected to host the G20 and to hand over the presidency of the United States of America. The expert went ahead to talk about the reason why this particular attendance by the United States of America might not be material. However, the United States may assign an internal official or a consulate person to attend in this, and such a move could cause a lot of friction because this official might not have the particular powers to implement any particular resolution, as he may be taking orders from Washington. Again, this may complicate the decision with regards to US's own presence. He went ahead to explain further. Let's play this clip.
Sure. So now, Doctor, I mean, do the other leaders within the G20 have any power to reprimand Donald Trump? And if so, how far do their powers extend?
Well, you know, states are very independent, and there's no state that can reprimand another state. So you are unlikely to see any censure of the American. You are likely to see people appealing to everyone to attend the forthcoming G20 that now we know it's in Miami. And I've seen statements in the past that it will be at Mar-a-Lago, which is his own residence. So we are unlikely to see a very strong statement condemning Trump. As I'm saying, Maschaba, it's because of the fracture around the emerging powers and the disappearing powers. And at the heart of this, it's some of the countries that are attending from the G7 who will be part of this G20, who are uncomfortable about the emergence of this multipolar world because it threatens their power holding and their hegemony around the world, the domination of different institutions, financial institutions, even political institutions around the world. So you are unlikely to see a very strong statement coming out of this G20. Much as we are talking, the global economy is not looking good. The global debt has gone up. I mean, last time I think me and you, we spoke, the global debt was about 300 trillion. Now it runs at 332 trillion.
Sure.
And the growth of the global economy is only 120 trillion in the last 3-4 years. So you are seeing serious challenges, and one had hoped that this G20 will be able to deal with the challenges around this growing global debt, particularly the public debt, that is driven actually by the United States. The United States has just added another $1 trillion in its own debt. If you look at the global debt of the US now, they're standing at close to $30 trillion. So it's a huge problem. So you're unlikely to see a concrete statement that comes out of this with respect to the global economy and the challenges and how to stimulate this growth.
Sure.
Let me know what you think regards the reason why the current leadership of the United States of America under Mr. Donald Trump does not see South Africa fit enough to be members of the G20. Of course, South Africa, a sovereign nation, will continue to engage the United States of America. These two countries are very strategic business partners. China heavily invested in the country of South Africa at the moment, and the United States of America's geostrategic partnership with the country of China is also under scrutiny. So South Africa, one of Africa's leading economies at the moment, is fighting for its own survival. The African Growth and Opportunity Act is done. Africa should revive the African Continental Free Trade Area because, like I said in the previous videos, that's the only lifeline. The United States coming back again. After the past couple of months, we saw how the showdown between the United States of America and South Africa. This particular tweet from Truth Social by Mr. Donald Trump has elevated this particular issue again, and South Africa must observe and approach the United States of America because at the moment, they are more experienced with regards to dealing with Mr. Trump than previously thought. I will be looking forward to meeting you soon in our next episode. Have a pleasant day. Bye-bye.
So, Doctor, if tensions continue to rise, then what does South Africa stand to lose diplomatically or even economically? And conversely, what might we gain by holding our independent ground?
You know, Ms. Chaba, I think it's very important to hold our independent ground. There are three issues that have emerged in the last 2 weeks that are framing global tension that we're seeing. The Russians have launched what they call the Brezhnev missile, and they've now launched the Posten missile. The Chinese have just unveiled yesterday the Jiang battleship. So these are causing tensions. That's why you've seen the Americans are saying they're going to go back to nuclear testing. So we're going to be tintillating around the United States and the Chinese and the Russians and the threats that they all perceive each of them possesses. And it would affect peripheral countries like us who are not at the core of that conflict. But I think we need to stand our ground. I think we need to revamp our foreign policy. I wouldn't be surprised, Ms. Chaba, to learn that the Americans actually have refused to accept, or they are dragging their feet in accepting the accreditation of our new ambassador, because it's inconceivable for me